We have with us none other than Ritesh Sachdev, Senior Vice President and Head Commercial Leasing, Asset Management, Sustainability and CSR, Intellion Offices, Tata Realty and Infrastructure. While that will be our finale session, can we have a finale round of applause to welcome our final speaker for the evening, none other than Mr. Ritesh Sachdev.
Sponsored.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Can you hear me loud and clear at the back? Well, thank you. Thank you. I need to just say thank you to the MC. She introduced me as a celebrity, none other than Ritesh Sachdev, but I'll take that. Thank you. I'd like to first of all thank the Times Group for organizing this summit, for getting a lot of perspectives that we did, a lot of sustainability guardians and champions, if I may, for us to be able to identify the elephant in the room and really bring about the change that you'd wish to see. It really wouldn't have been complete given the loss, I'd say, that the global community or perhaps the global community has seen, and therefore it would have been inadequate, unfair for me to start without paying a tribute to our late leader. I'd say when the world was gravitating towards either socialism or capitalism, there is this one entity, there is this one company which managed to embrace both ideologies simultaneously. I'd like to call this approach responsible capitalism. Today, the word Tatas and trust is synonym with each other, not just in India, but globally. Mr. Ratan Tata had cultivated the trust in every Indian business household, and I quote, "Businesses need to go beyond the interest of their companies to the communities they serve." In today's world, this responsibility extends not just to communities, but also to the environment and all stakeholders involved. And I think, given the impact that we're witnessing overall, with regards to climate change, amongst a lot of the other things, I think it's crucial to visit his philosophy and perhaps one of the many ways that we pay homage to this great leader. I've heard this many a times that we're keeping everyone away from the bar. We've had to merge a lot of sessions. You've been a very committed audience since the morning. My colleagues gave me 10 slides worth of content and a lot of data. I promised you I'll do my bit to try and give you clearer takeaways. More importantly, I'd say the role of the private sector, amongst a lot of the other things, how important it is that we, as we say, walk the talk, and I'll be able to give you certain examples of how we very responsibly walk that talk, amongst other things. Busy slide, a lot of data. There is a study published in Nature which suggests that we are very close to breaching that 1.5 degrees global warming threshold in the next 4 years. Now, alarming, isn't it? According to a McKinsey insight, flash floods alone have resulted in a loss of about 17 billion, I'd say by about 2050. Now, I'll just set some context around that. Now, this loss will be about 6 times the value of the Hyundai IPO, which is said to be amongst the largest in India. There has been a 25% increase in flood incidents due to extreme weather, global warming, and increased cyclonic activity. India is expected to see over 60% increase in heat waves, evident with more than 200 deaths, unfortunately, this year in Delhi NCR, actually last year. And by 2020, rather unfortunate, by more than 2,000 deaths to be occurring. And is the infrastructure prepared for this? I guess not. Now, we've heard about carbon emissions. One of the key causes for this is carbon emissions, which currently stands at, I'd say, 41 billion tons. To have a 50% chance to be able to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees, we need to restrict the global warming to less than 250 billion tons. At the current rate that we are going by, we will exceed that by 2040. Now, why the global focus on sustainability? I'm delighted that I had a real estate focus session earlier, so a lot of that context has been set, but I'm conscious of what I speak. One of the many good things, or perhaps amongst the only good things that COVID did, is heightened the focus towards sustainability and the role that the industry has to play. Nearly 40% of the Fortune 500 companies have made net zero commitments. And I'll set the context further. India continues to be a very large market. I'll give you some data, I'll give you some facts, but 20 large global occupiers have committed to go net zero by 2050. Real estate, unfortunately, as you would have seen earlier, is the largest or makes the largest impact towards greenhouse emissions, and therefore the ability for the real estate sector to make a significant opportunity cannot be undermined. I'll also talk about, I've heard a lot about financial prudence and why sustainability is financially prudent as well, and these are some data factors, some pointers. 98% plus of all global investors look at ESG before making financial decisions. More than 60% of global occupiers today look at making decisions in developments that are green and sustainable. These are end users, mind you. And ESG or sustainable buildings, their return on investment is 5, or rather the rental values that investors or developers will be able to get is about 5% higher vis-a-vis non-ESG or non-green developments. Let me talk a little bit about, I've given you a lot of these data pointers. Let me set the context a little bit with regards to the role that India has to play. I've heard a lot of our distinguished, I'd heard the minister talk about the role that India has to play now in the global stage. 2019, I often say, is the watershed, or rather was the watershed year for the history of commercial real estate in India. Why do I say it? In that 1 year alone, more than 60 million square feet of commercial office space got absorbed. We were to continue growing from there, and then COVID happened. What does 60 million square feet mean in a global perspective? India absorbs, and this was 2019, and we're due to breach that 60 million square feet mark this year. We'll perhaps be looking at 65 to 70 million square feet. What does that mean? India absorbs more commercial real estate in 1 year than all of the other Asian economies put together. I was looking at some other data which tells me that the commercial real estate markets in India have grown or added about 250 million square feet since 2018. And if you were to compare that to the largest commercial office market in the world, which is the Americas, there has been a negative growth of almost 170% since 2018. Those are the numbers that we're talking about. I'll just very quickly talk a little bit about, I mentioned earlier, the role of the private sector. We take our responsibility seriously. Project Alingan is the flagship initiative of the Tata Group, where it asks each of its group companies to achieve net zero by 2045 and double the use of renewable energy, primarily around driving net zero, the 3 pillars, pioneering circular economies and preserving nature and biodiversity. We've taken a cue from the Tata Group and we've drawn out our own sustainability pillars. We call those 5 R's. I won't go into detail. Clearly with the intention of developing global world-class commercial assets. I've always said this, the proof of the pudding really is its in eating. How do you do it? So far, we've developed close to 30 million square feet across 15 Indian cities. We've got an impressive 35 million square feet that we will be developing over the next, I'd say, 15 years. Now, the proof is right there in front of you. How do we do it? All of our portfolio is green certified. All of our construction, newer construction, is LEED Platinum certified. We talk about many firsts at the Tata Group. We like to take pioneering positions in sectors of national importance, and towards that, I'm also delighted to share with you that Ramanujan Intellion Park, our 5.5 million square feet asset in Chennai, is the first IFC Net Edge carbon certified asset in the country and only ninth globally. And I'll tell you why this is even more important. This, ladies and gentlemen, is more than a decade-old asset, and this is the proof that I was talking about. This is our walk the talk, proof that you build for the future and how it more than itself pays back for it. This asset, at any point of time, I think we should have about 500 people here in the audience today, including in the summit. At peak capacity, this asset served more than 50,000 people. The data, stats, etc., there in front of you. I won't speak about them and how we've been able to reduce energy consumption by 40% plus, reduce water consumption by 30% plus by use of embodied material. We spoke earlier about that, but that, ladies and gentlemen, is the proof of the pudding. What's the impact that we're expecting? Our portfolio grows over the next few years. I'd say, according to some estimates, we expect to reduce about 220,000 tons of CO2 by 2030 by offsetting Scope 1 and Scope 2. We will reduce, regarding water usage, we consume about 700 million liters. And to set some context, this is about 280 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Through our initiatives, I'd say, within our assets and the neighboring communities, we aim to replenish about 1,125 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water by about 2040, and in that 2030, and in that manner become net water positive. We're in the magnificent city of Delhi, and just to set another context, this city generates about 11,000 tons of waste daily. We, within our portfolio, and by the way, all of which, and I hope I'm wrong, all of which goes into landfill, we, within our portfolio, generate about 14% annually of what Delhi as a city generates daily. If everything is to remain constant, I'd say by 2030, we will generate an amount equivalent to about 60% of the waste that Delhi generates. And I'm also delighted to share none of that will go into landfill. It will be recycled, it will be reused and or disposed in an environmentally friendly manner. What challenges? That again is a very busy slide for you. I've got data on benefits, incentives that most states across the country are offering. We've seen a lot of progressive states, if I may, like Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana, and Tamil Nadu, amongst other states that are, I'd say, friendlier towards real estate in India. What we'd like to do, however, is call out on 4 things which are the challenges really in helping achieve our net zero ambition. The first really is for the government to be able to look at making renewable energy, making it easier for, I'd say, end users to procure renewable energy. The second, I'd say, is the availability of embodied material. The third and a unique concept that I'd like to talk about is cradle to cradle. We heard earlier today about consumers having a choice to know the materials that they're procuring. And I also heard this earlier today about the cost of green hydrogen. And as the production scales up, I'm hoping that the cost will reduce significantly and the revolutionize the long haul transportation in the steel industry. I'd like to leave you with this one context. The current grade A commercial real estate stock in the country is about 700 million square feet. A lot of you would have heard about growth of GCCs. I spoke about absorption year on year. this market is poised to grow up to 1.6 billion. That's the size of the commercial real estate market that we're talking about, and you can imagine the opportunity or the scope or the contribution that the real estate sector is able to make. I'd leave you with this one last quote by Mary Ann Bono, and I love this one. We don't need 100 people doing ESG perfectly. We'd need 100,000 people doing ESG imperfectly. There is a small video that I'll have the team play that for me. That's a 2-minute clip which really talks about the initiatives that we've taken at Tata Realty, and I'd like to leave you with that, please. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ritesh.